Hi, I'm Melanie, and I am here with Zelda Sheldon, professional vocal coach with Love Your Voice. And we're here to talk about a brand new article on why it feels so cringy to hear yourself recorded. And there's actually something you can do about it. So we're going to go over that too.
It's true, and I love the title, Cringe, because I can just remember back when I was I think it was high school, and it was before the days. I mean, we're so lucky now that we've got little handheld devices, but there was just no other way for me to hear my voice before I attended high school and heard my voice on a reel-to-reel tape recorder that one teacher had, and it was cringe. I felt so cringy. But you know what? It wasn't just me. It was everyone. It was like, I hate my voice. Oh, I can't, So you can imagine 30 girls in a classroom. It wasn't co-ed. It was all girls. Manly Girls High School. And it was cringe factor multiplied by 30. We all cringed at our voice.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally.
What about you, Melanie? Have you got a cringe story?
Yeah, I mean, I had so many cringe stories. I was a very cringy kid. I also grew up before the era of accessible iPhone recording, so I did have my dad's little mini tape thing, but I don't think I ever sang into it. But when I was I think I was 14, I got a Tascam multi-track recorder.
Oh,
and I got so excited, and I recorded myself. And at this point, I had been taking voice lessons for at least 4 years. I'd studied opera, and I played it back, and I didn't use it again for a year because it was so uncomfortable. And my friends and I would jokingly record our speaking voices with the mini recorder, and we'd play it back and be like, "Oh, we sound so terrible." And I've worked through the cringe for my singing voice. I still hate hearing my speaking voice back. If I rewatch this video, it's going to be with closed captions and no audio. So
Isn't it funny? It's really weird. So now you've studied this at Berkeley College, and they did a psychoacoustics course, which is all about the perception of audio. And so I thought that was really interesting, the description of that, the proper meaning, the perception, because that's all about the senses. So obviously how we hear it, but also, when we use that in modern language, we say how we perceive something. So it's all about thinking as well. So Melanie, give us a quick and dirty about why it's so weird.
Yeah, totally. I'm the kind of person who loves to know why things are the way they are.
Yeah, you're very nerdy.
Yes, as a kid who took the remote control apart. So when we hear ourselves speaking, live, we're not hearing what is happening in the room. We're hearing our voice conducted by the bones in our skull to our inner ear. And our brain does this amazing filtering so that we don't hear echoes or delays. And we get a little bit of the reflection off the wall.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool. But when you record yourself and play it back, you're not hearing what you're used to hearing. So there's this automatic, it's like taking a sip of what you thought was grape juice and finding out it's wine.
Yeah.
Maybe you like wine, but if you thought you were getting grape juice, that's going to be kind of gross. And a lot of people will be like, "Oh, I sound bad." And it's like, you just don't sound like how you expect. And our voices are so intimate to ourselves. It's it's a part of our identity that to find out you don't sound how you thought you sound can be really, really upsetting and really uncomfortable to think that everyone else has been seeing you differently. That was the cringe factor for me as a teenager.
Yeah, totally. So it's all about all the bones, all of the things that are happening in the cranium, in the skull. So we can actually, all of those are being filtered. Whereas when the sound is coming out through the mouth into the room, then it's a totally different perception. It's a totally different physical thing.
Totally, yeah. I don't get to hear what your voice sounds like resonating in the bones of your skull. It's so cool. It's kind of metal too.
It is. It's really interesting. So I suppose the first thing is to get over the cringe factor is to be really aware that it's going to be totally different. It's going to sound different. So you just have to get over the shock.
Totally. Yeah. And different's not bad.
Yeah.
Was a tough one to accept, but like we're both professional vocalists, or I have been at a point.
Yeah.
And I still, like when I hear myself played back, it's still kind of surprising, but it's not negative anymore.
You know what? It is a little bit surprising. So now let's talk about what we can actually do about this. So what are we going to do? We're going to record our voice.
Yes.
And then we're going to talk about how it feels as we're singing. And then, this is a bit of a reflection exercise, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just going to say before we got into this little segue that the more exposure that you can have to recording, and this is wonderful now because we've all got these devices in our pockets, and I've got a really lovely little record app, and it's fantastic. I'm always hearing myself, and I don't have the shock anymore. So I've gotten over the shock only through exposure. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's ultimately the only way to do it. But I'm really curious to try this.
Yeah, let's.
I want to hear how you hear yourself.
Okay.
So I think we picked At Last.
At Last.
Just an amazing song.
It's a classic, and so I always recommend to my students that they have classic songs that they can just sing. And this is a classic of the classics. So this is a beautiful love song. It's really slow, so it's got long held notes. So it's a beautiful way to hear ourselves.
Yeah.
All right, so what are we going to do?
So you're going to sing the first line? And
At last, my love has come along.
Yes.
All right, okay.
And then do you want to listen before you tell me how you thought you sounded, or do you want to...
I'll tell you how I think I sounded before I hear myself.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
We're rolling.
All right. At last, my love has come along.
That
All right.
is gorgeous.
Oh, well, thanks.
Sorry, not to color your perception. So how does it feel to sing?
I thought I did a pretty good job. And, it was funny, but as you're singing, all of a sudden, and we're going to talk about this soon, the inner critic, the audience. We've got an inner audience inside, and so my inner audience was, it was applauding, and then it was going boo, it was just, it was doing all sorts of things. And this is happening at lightning speed. But I started off and I thought, great, I've got a nice big puff of air. I feel strong. I feel good. So I kind of felt good. I felt good. I was thinking, okay, am I too strong? Should I have held back a little bit? So I was, sort of double checking myself, triple checking, did I start too strong? Should I have been a little bit more gentle in that? As for pitch, I thought that I sang pretty well on pitch.
Cool.
Yeah.
And are there tonal qualities that you experience hearing yourself? Of your what tone do you think your voice has?
Well, it was a clear tone, so I haven't got very much rasp. I haven't got much twang. I don't think I heard twang. Twang is that kind of ducky sort of sound, that honky sort of.
Luke Bryan.
Yeah. So I thought it sounded pretty clear. It hasn't got the texture that I would love to have. I'd love to have that Bonnie Tyler texture, that raspy sort of, But it was just a clear tone.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
You want to listen?
Yes.
All right, let's.
Oh, and I can hear some room acoustics too. That's what I heard. So I heard the sound filling up the room. So
yeah, it was a lovely sound.
thank you.
We're rolling. Oh God, my speaking voice.
At last, my love has come along. Interesting. Well, you know what? It wasn't cringy. So I think my exposure to hearing my sound has overridden any cringe factor, which is what I can recommend to people who are listening and looking at this video. Just record yourself a lot, and then you won't have that shock. You know, it'll be less shocking because you've heard it a gazillion times at your worst, at your best. And so, yeah, it sounded very much like how I'm hearing it in my head.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because I don't know how well this will translate on camera, but in the room, this recording sounds so different from hearing you sing live because we've got these little tiny speakers
Yes.
and this little tiny microphone. And so your voice sounds so much brighter and
Yes.
not as rich on a recording. It, like, you lose some really beautiful color that you have. So my experience of you singing
Yep.
was totally different from your experience of you singing, and was totally different from the experience of hearing you recorded.
Okay.
So I feel like that's an important thing to keep in mind, is like,
Yeah.
whatever you're using to capture your voice is gonna change it a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, which is why they have gazillion-dollar recording studios.
Yes.
Yes.
To try to make it sound as natural as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Beautiful microphones, a lovely room with, you know, which is a really great acoustic environment. So yeah, and yeah, it's tiny little speakers, a tiny little microphone. So it's doing a good job, much better than my awful cassette players that I had, you know, in their time.
Yes, my little mini cassette. Which
Yeah.
if it played back at the correct speed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, what was your perception? So what did you hear tone-wise? What did you hear pitch-wise? What did you hear in the performance?
Yeah, pitch-wise, it sounded lovely.
Great.
And I didn't think you came on too strong. It was very full in the low notes, very bright, not as bright as that.
Right.
Almost brassy, but not in a bad way.
Okay.
Like, it's kind of this classic jazz tone.
Yeah.
Not like the very modern breathy thing, but thick and rich. I don't know, maybe those aren't good.
Thick and rich, I like it. You know what, these are these descriptive sounds which I hope that people, when they're listening to this, watching this video, that they will start to build like a repertoire of descriptions. So whenever I have a brand new student, they will sing a song and I will give them my perception because part of my professional experience as a singer and as a songwriter is we used to have to cast voices to sing our songs for advertising. And we'd always be looking for a different sort of a singer to match the song that we were trying to produce. And so we'd have some who are raspy, a Janis Joplin-y type of thing, or some that are really, you know, very sweet and, you know, a nice sweet high sound. So I'd always be trying to, you know, match the singer to the song, to the project. And so, yeah, get yourself a repertoire of brassy, strong, you know, cut through, you know, or light or airy or breathy. Those type of things are really good to have in your repertoire of descriptors.
Yeah. Oh, and one more thing I thought about hearing your voice to kind of like backtrack for a second, because yes, the descriptors are really important.
Yes.
You described your tone as clear.
Yes.
Which I agree with, but I also think you have more texture than you realize.
Really?
It's not raspy by any stretch, but it's also like there's a little bit of air in there.
Yes. That's true. Now, this is really important that you mention that because I have noticed just in the different, let's call it an accent. We've got the American accent, which is really rhotic. They call it a rhotic accent, and it's very it's got a hardness about it, a resonance, whereas Australia, where I'm from, it is quite breathy. Not as breathy as the Irish, so they've got this lovely Irish sort of lots of air. But yeah, so you're hearing my accent through my singing.
Interesting.
Yes.
All right, here, I'm going to take a sip of water and then I'm going to try this.
Oh, I'd love you to have that as well.
All right, yeah, I'm curious to hear.
And of course, you love Irish singing.
I do. I think I'm just going to sing the next line after you. But
My lonely days are over and life is like a song.
okay.
Okay.
I get to finish the stanza. I love
Yeah,
this
and
song.
you've actually got the most difficult part of it because
That's the fun part.
yeah. All right, I'm looking forward to this.
I'm hoping I wind up in the same key as you, but we'll find out.
I think I went there.
My lonely days are over, and life is like a song. Oh,
Oh,
no! I messed up the Melisma.
oh come on, do it again. Whoa, do it again.
Life is like a song. Oh, yeah, at last.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's beautiful.
I can do it. We just had to prove that I don't always mess up, but I do always mess up.
Right. Now, that was a very, let's talk about that just before. That was gorgeous. I love that. So full of melismas. And I heard quite a lot of breath and air as well. It was lovely.
Yeah, that was my...
Perfect pitch.
Oh, thank you.
Perfect pitch.
Yeah, it was my experience. I felt good about the pitch until I fell off the melisma, and you were right. I saw you on breath support.
Breath.
You're
yes.
correct.
Yes.
I feel like my sound is fairly breathy and kind of textured right now. I'm recovering from being sick.
Yeah.
So there's a little more of that going on. I feel like my low notes are pretty breathy and soft.
Yeah.
And then when I was like, I know that I do get a little bit into my nose, but
Yeah.
I kind of like that, but maybe I won't like that played back. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear it. And I
Okay.
get to listen to my mistake. That's the best part, is hearing yourself make a mistake when you know you made a mistake.
Yeah.
That's not the best part. Sarcasm. My lonely days are over, and life is like a song. Oh no! I messed up the melisma.
Oh, come on, do it again. Whoa, do it again.
Life is like a song. Oh yeah, at last.
Oh, wow. Wow, that was great. So I loved all that vibrato. It's enjoyable. I loved that tone. So even though it's a tiny little speaker and a tiny little microphone, to me, that was pretty accurate.
Yeah.
What we were hearing in the room.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder, because those like breathy sounds, we're getting it super technical for 1 second.
Yeah,
Those breathy sounds are like around 10,000 hertz.
Which is, what, as high as a dog can hear? When
You can hear it. It's really popular to have that sound in recordings nowadays. But these little tiny, that's the perfect little tiny sound for these little tiny speakers and microphones.
Yeah.
So I would imagine if that's kind of the overwhelming tone of my voice, this is going to do a better job capturing that than that rich, full bottom note that you have.
Yeah.
Because that's a lower frequency. You need a bigger diaphragm microphone to get it and a bigger diaphragm speaker to reproduce it.
Yeah, totally. What did you perceive hearing back to that recording?
I think I was louder than I thought I was, because I could hear almost a little bit of clipping on that. I thought I was quieter. Yeah, I got louder than I realized. That's the biggest one. And it definitely emphasizes the kind of brassiness on the top.
Yes.
But I don't think I sounded as raspy as I thought I did.
Now, the interesting thing about the section that you were singing, it started low and then it went high. And so as we know, the lower notes, there's more effort getting those lower notes to be full.
Oh, yeah.
My lonely days are over. That was low, right?
Oh, yeah.
Man, love is light. And so the opposite. So you were going low, low in the range. But then as you were going higher, then you're able to get all of these lovely big notes, these big belty notes that came out. which was great. Must have sounded really good in your brain.
It sounded great, yeah. I feel pretty good about it until I was like, this melisma is about to crash. That's like, you can feel that coming sometimes. Where you're like, I've lost control of the ship here.
Exactly. Yeah, so there's the inner critic. Now, did you have the inner critic making a little bit of a conversation with you? I know that right at the very end when you went, I didn't have enough breath then to carry this through.
Totally. And I didn't even think about it as breath. I just like went, I'm going to make a mistake, which I have learned when your brain does that, you are going to make a mistake because it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you're like, you're going to mess this up. You're going to mess it up.
Yeah.
So I did have my inner critic go, I'm not going to land this. It's going to be messy. And I stopped before I could have completed my error, but I stopped, which is not a good, I think, sing through the mistakes.
I wonder what those performers do. Like I saw that fantastic movie, Taylor Swift's Eras concert tour movie, and like she just sings like for, what was it, 2 hours and 49 minutes or something. And it was like, so yeah, she couldn't stop. She couldn't stop when she was doing that run that you just did.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I mean, live, you really can't. Like, I've had the experience of performing live. The drummer started in the wrong time signature, and we just all had to suddenly play the song in 3. So you really can't.
A new arrangement.
Yeah.
So the inner critic.
Yeah. So what is your inner critic saying?
Well, my inner critic will be always just talking to me. Now let's talk about more just the inner critic, because it's let's just dig a little bit deeper. That's just one of your inner audience members. So you've also got, let's just call it the inner audience. So the inner audience, and we've all got this. I think we realized when we were probably about, I don't know, what was it, 6 or 7. Remember when we started to feel embarrassed for the first time? It's like, really? I'm going to wear this fairy outfit in the middle of the street? Whereas before, when you're like 3 or 4 or 5, you could wear that Batman costume or your fairy outfit and look ridiculous, and you wouldn't even think that you look ridiculous. But something happens when you get to a certain age in your development that all of a sudden you are very aware that you've got an inner audience. It's like, I can't wear that. That's embarrassing, right? Yeah. So you've got your inner critic, which is almost like your parent or your guardian who's always trying to stop you from being embarrassed. That was probably what you heard when you had that moment.
Yeah.
I'm going to flop. It's not going to go well, right? That's your inner critic. You've also got an inner cheerleader. You can do this. And so I had my inner cheerleader just saying, yeah, okay, you started pretty well. It was a little bit strong, but you're singing on pitch. You're doing a pretty good job. Yay, yay, Zelda, go you.
Yeah.
Do you hear your inner cheerleader sometimes?
Almost all the time. I think I've reached a point, just like with my age and my experience level, where I'm okay with making mistakes. I'm joking about it because we're on camera, but I generally, it's mostly that inner cheerleader. And every once in a while, my inner critic will just side hip check her out of the room. But I do want to say, I think there's one more audience member, at least in my experience.
Yes.
Is the inner critic, or the bully.
Oh, the bully.
Pretending to be your inner critic.
Yes.
I think especially when we're first starting to hear ourselves, that's who we're hearing.
What would it say? Let's get some dialogue. You think you're a singer?
No one's going to like your voice.
Yeah.
You sound terrible.
Yeah. Why even open your mouth?
Yeah.
Yeah. You sound bad.
Yeah, because that's not, you sound bad isn't really a critique, right? A critique is something you can do something about.
Exactly. Helpful criticism. I totally agree with the inner bully. All right. So now let's talk about what we can actually do about it, because I get so many students who come and they think, I can't stand my voice. In fact, I'll get them to self-rate. What do you think about your voice? And sometimes they'll say, it's like a 5, or it's like, this is out of 10. I'll say 10 is awesome, 1 is awful, and anywhere in between. And they'll go, it's a 4, or it's a 5, or a 6. Quite often they're so wrong. So, you're in a judge. You've also got one of your other audience members is a judge. It's holding up little signs, 4, 6, whatever. All right, so let's think about what we can actually do. And so there's a great exercise that I give to my students. And it doesn't take very long, but I get them to repeat these words. So we talk about having this inner critic or inner judge who's not being very helpful. He's kind of, or he or she, isn't that interesting that my inner critic all of a sudden became a he? What's that about? Okay.
I feel like you can dive into that in therapy someday.
we won't dwell on that. But my inner critic, okay, so let's give this inner critic a name. And I always like to have the name starting with your initial. So in my name, it's Zelda. So let's just call my inner critic Zara. Okay, what's your inner critic, Melanie? Starting with an M.
Oh, I was going to call Simon Cowell, but we can go with Miranda.
Miranda. Okay, so Miranda and Zara. Okay, so hey, you can repeat after me. This is really fun. Hey, Zara.
Hey, Miranda.
I know that what we're doing now is really uncomfortable for you.
I know that what we're doing now is really uncomfortable for you.
Because you like things to be perfect.
Because you like things to be perfect.
But how about we do this?
But how about we do this?
While I'm going through this process of falling and failing and messing up.
While I'm going through this process of falling and failing and messing up.
How about you go into another room and just take it easy, read a magazine, put your feet up, and I'll call you when I'm ready.
Okay, that's a long
That was a long one.
How about you go to another room, take it easy, put your feet up, read a magazine, and I'll call you when I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Open up the door.
Oh, literally.
Open up the door.
I gotta go this way so I don't smack the microphone.
Shut the door. And now we haven't got the inner critic anymore.
Yes, they're in another room.
They're in another room. Now, Zara might want to interrupt us. She might be listening. But if she opens up that door, here's what we're going to say. If we can hear that inner critic come back into our space, I'm not ready. I haven't called you yet.
Yeah, I'm not ready. I haven't called you yet. Nobody asked for your opinion.
Exactly.
You're nicer to your inner critic than I am.
So how does that sound? How did that feel?
It feels good to kind of like put that separation between me and this negative voice, which I think my inner critic and inner bully hang out a lot. So it was a really nice thing to have, to not identify with my critic and to be able to tell him to leave.
Yes. So the most important thing here in this exercise is firstly being aware that you've got something going on, mind chatter. So you've got this audience, and this audience is basically being a bully, and it's trying to stop you from, the process, because there is going to be a lot of failure as we're learning to sing. And it's only through all of this failure and making mistakes and trying again and repetition of, getting it right enough times that exposure. It's exposure.
Totally. Yeah. And I know it took a while for me to be able to anticipate what I'm going to sound like recorded while I'm singing live.
Yeah. Interesting.
So we've talked about, our own experiences with being cringy and why we have those feelings and how to deal with our inner critic.
Yeah.
So just to wrap it up, like, why is it worth telling the inner critic to go take a hike to learn to listen to ourselves?
Well, I think one word would be freedom. Freedom to be able to do all of the necessary work as an artist, as a creator, as even a technician. If you can just set yourself free from the shadow of the bully or the shadow of the inner critic, I think that enables you to be able to make all of the errors, and it's only through errors that you're going to be able to get better.
Definitely.
So, that's to me. What about you? What do you think it's...
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking of it from a more practical point of view, where if you are going to be a professional vocalist or even just like a hobbyist, if you're going to record yourself, you got to listen back through headphones. If you're going to sing live with the band, there's going to be a speaker pointed at your face, blasting your voice back at you. And even in the process of recording, you're listening to yourself while you're singing through headphones. And that takes a while to get used to, because sometimes if the equipment's not very good or the engineer is learning to, there's a delay, and it's it can really mess with you, and you won't give your best performance if you're sitting there listening to your inner critic going, well, you don't sound very good through these headphones right now. It sounds bad. It's going to be bad.
That's right.
So I mean, and listening back to ourselves is such a good learning tool, but I have definitely found, the farther I've gotten in my music career, the more I've had to hear myself. And especially if I do demo vocals, the engineer hears something that I didn't hear, and so he'll be like, you messed up this line. I'll be like, I did? And then I have to go listen to it and hear just how badly I did on that line, and then be okay with it and sing it again.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. To be okay. I think you actually hit the nail on the head just then. To be okay. To feel okay, because when you're feeling okay, when you're not under this crazy, pressure from the inner bully or the inner critic or the inner judge, you're going to be okay to take more chances, to do something awesome with that vocal,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And our inner critic does not reflect the outer critics, No one notices your mistakes as much as you do. Like I've always told students, don't stop if you make a mistake. That's the only way I passed a class in college. I got the first note right and the last note right and nothing in between. And my teacher was like, I've never heard somebody get so off key and get back pass. It wasn't a strong pass, but it's the only reason I passed.
Well, what a great story to finish up, Melanie. Hey, this has been a really good conversation.
Yeah.
And I hope that people want to go to our website, loveyourvoice.coach, because this is a really great article all about, the cringe factor and getting over this, talking about the inner critic. So, there's some really good articles. I'd recommend that you read those articles. Reach out if you feel that you are getting beaten up by your inner audience, the inner bully, and you want to have a space where we can actually, go through a fun process of you being able to listen and hear and take chances and learn to love your voice.
Yes, yeah. And if you're watching here on YouTube, let us know your experience with feeling cringy hearing yourself in the comments. We'd love to hear your stories too, because I think almost everybody has an awkward teenage singing story.
You know what? Also in the comments, just tell us what you might be thinking about. Is there something that you want us to write an article about or have a discussion about? We'd be happy to do that as well.
Yeah. What can we talk about and have fun talking about?
Okay.
And to help you. Yeah. I'm really curious.
Yeah, I'm curious too. Well, thank you so much for watching. And what do we always say?
Love your
voice. Love your voice.